So a lot of suggestions have been made since the first part. I have still the 6-pin switch here, and it's just the same state as we left it in part 1. And one suggestion was that the 12-volt line, so the yellow cable, is not used both by the Gotek and the floppy drive. So we could easily leave it out and use the 6-prone switch to switch the data line pin 2. Let's check if that is actually true. Then I want to check. I made a split cable for the ground, if you remember, with the green, which comes from here 1 and goes into 2. If we actually need 2 ground wires here, because if not, we don't have to do the splitting. We can just put one ground wire here and the second ground wire here, because on most PCBs the ground is connected, so we have just one ground plane. The only exception I know of is the CRT TV, and Adrian Black did something about this in one of his recent videos about CRTs, where he described that there are 2 ground planes separated. And yeah, so the first thing I want to do is check if on the Gotek and the floppy drive and the motherboard the ground planes or the ground pins are connected, and if so, we only need one cable to the floppy and to the Gotek, and that would reduce again cables. And let's say for the first part of this video it's just optimization, so we want to have the fewest possible cables we can. So let's put that in a back here. Let's pull this cable. Let's remember that brown is 5 volts. Let's put this in continuity, and let's see if these 2 middle pins are connected. And they are. Good, as expected. So let me just for now put that back on here. And we will do the same on the board. And let's remember that yellow is to the left. And we check the 2 middle pins. And again, these are connected. And I guess we don't have to check, but we still will. Let's remember that white is to the left. If these 2 pins on the disk drive connected, and they are. So brown is here and white is here, and let's leave the blue one here and take the green off. It should still work like this, and it will just put the sticky tape on here for now. Keep this in place. So now I can take this off, and this is just a prototype, so this is not made for beauty. I will of course make this a lot more tidier when I put it in the final case, but for now this is just an experiment, so bear with me here. And I know it's not pretty. So we have the green wire off here, so we take the blue wire off here. And just like that, we can now go, we have a blue wire which goes in here, and we just, as I said, just for experimental purposes, do cut the blue wire here. So now we have just one straight connection, and we do cut the green wire, that splitted wire here. So now we have one green wire from here to here and one blue wire from here to here, and we have all the ground connections we need. So next, let's see if we do indeed not need the 12 volts on the Gotek first. So 12 volts is this white cable here. So let me just pull this. That would reduce our construction by one more cable. So let's see if it still works. Nice. So that works. Now let's do the same for the disk drive. So we pull the white cable, and I'm really not sure if that actually is the case. I was sure it would work with a Gotek because I had a Gotek powered by just 5 volts before, and we could have theoretically left out the white cable here for the Gotek, but you never know. So now we check the floppy drive, and for that we have, of course. Okay, so it seems that we actually do only need that 6-pin connector, and that we can remove the 12 volts line, and we have only going 2 pins in here and 2 pins in here, which is great news. And we could actually put these closer together because these are both ground lines. We will just put them like this. Nice. There was one more suggestion, and that was to just cut the pin 2 cable on this right here and route that to the switch so that it is a tidier fit, so that I can just use the plug on the Gotek. And that is a valid point, so I will, I guess, go and do that, especially since I have switched the places of these. So the middle connector now goes to the drive, and the outer connector, or the end connector here, goes to the Gotek. And I will do one more thing, and that is cut off this drive connector up here because I don't need it. You can just go and cut it off, because why not? Like that. Bingo. So that's a lot tidier. You shouldn't cut off this one here, because then the cable is disconnected, and that's not a good idea. Okay, so I did solder 2 red wires to the switch, which will then go to that cable which I cut here, and I did remove the rat's nest, and I will just plug this into the Gotek. I cut with a blade, a very sharp blade, the line number 2, or pin number 2 line, and I will now connect the red wire to these 2 ends, and that should make this switchable. So only if the switch is in this position, which is a Gotek position, that line will be closed and the Gotek can boot. And if you switch to the drive, the line will be cut, and that is exactly what this needs, because it gets a closed line. This drive gets a closed line from here, so that should work fine. Okay, I will do the soldering, shrink wrapping stuff, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I did the final wiring, and that is the cable connected, and you can see that this is now with the red wires, and the red wire goes from here to the switch, and out of the switch into the back into the cable. And we have, I removed the 12 volts line from the board also. There's just 3 pins now, which is 5 volts and 2 ground lines, and the 5 volts go to the switch, which is the purple cable here, and go to the 5 volts here and 5 volts here, which is switchable. And we have a green line that is ground here, and we have a green line, blue line that is ground here. So that should now actually work, and it's much tidier than before. So thank you for your comments and ideas. So I guess we are ready to fire this up and see if it still works, because maybe there are other lines in the data cable, which is now fully connected, that block the drive from working. So let's see what we have. That is the Gotek firing up. This is info. It sounds good. It looks good. So this works. Let's try the other position. That should now fire up the disk drive. Let's see. Yeah, it's loading. That was a very short load to load the Amiga test kit disk. Yeah, well, that works. Great. I'm very, very happy. So now that all the switching stuff is out of the way and it is relatively neat and tidy, we have to take care of the whole display and keyboard thing. as I said, I don't want to use the buttons, I don't want to use this display. I want to do this all in the Amiga. And for that we have to hook up some cables, and I have these clips here, which have these little grabbing arms, and you can just pull this, put on a cable here, put this back together, and then you have these clips and these cables on the other end. And I have prepared 4 cables because we need 4 cables for that to happen. And what we do is we have 4 points where we have to connect our cables. So we have 2 things to accomplish. We have to put a signal on the screen, and we have to intercept the keyboard so that we can use the standard Amiga keyboard to interact with the Gotek. We will need a device for that, and that is a so-called blue pill or an STM32 microcontroller, which we will have to program, and we will get to this in a minute. Let me show you at which points we need to hook our cables. We have 3 ferrite beans right here, and these are red, green and blue. Might be the other way around, I don't know. However, what we want to do is we want to hook to one of these lines, and you can decide yourself if you want a red, a green or a blue text on the screen. And that is the idea, that the text that normally would be displayed on this little OLED display here would be displayed on the normal monitor of the Amiga. So we hook into one of these signals, and I'm using green for now, which is the middle one, and there's already some wrapping around. I don't know why it came like this. The other thing we need is called the C-Sync signal, and that can be had at this spot right here. You have the odd CIA, and on the left there's a soldering point with no connection, no capacitor and no resistor. There's just an empty pad here. Right next to the O, and here we will put, or I will put a little pin, I guess, or maybe solder the cable directly. You can always solder directly, you don't have to use these clips, you can solder if you like. So we put a cable here for the green signal, we put a cable here for the C-Sync, and that in combination with the device we need, the blue pill or the STM32, will solve our display problem. By the way, this is all based on an idea by Keir Fraser, who made the FlashFloppy for the Gotek, to name just one. And this is his website, and he has all the connections right here. So I will just follow this instructions. I will go and grab the keyboard from somewhere else. I don't want to go to the to this one here, to this resistor pack. I will go to the keyboard directly. We have this connector right here, which is that keyboard connector. I have removed the keyboard, and we need keyboard clock and keyboard data. Right, I will link the website of Keir Fraser and where he shows how to do this in the description of the video, so you can follow there if you can't follow me. We need one more thing, and that is a resistor, because we can't connect directly to the green line here. We have to put a resistor of, I guess it's 280 ohms or something like this. We'll have to double check. Yeah, let's go and put the cables in, and I will do that now, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I was able to put that pin in there without removing the board, which is good. And now I can clip my lead to that. Okay, I have my 4 cables here, and the other one clips to that freshly soldered pin here. And yes, these cables are unnecessarily long, but it's just for experimenting purposes. If I put it in the final case, I will of course solder all these connections, and then that is good. The red one goes to that bead in here. Alrighty, that's our red cable. So in Keir's original document, that is the orange cable here, but we have to put the resistor in between here, so not to forget that here. So we use that one here, and keyboard clock the other way around. We have a bit room here. Okay, so these are our 4 cables connected to the specific spots. Cables, we still have to do the resistor thing in between here. So I did put a 270 ohm resistor in here. I'm just going to solder this, and then I have some heat shrink here, which I put here, which I then put over this, and then we have a cable. This is the blue pill I was talking about. It's an STM32 microcontroller. And to program this, you need one of these serial adapters. TTL serial programmer or adapter. You can get this for $2 and this for, I guess, $4 on Amazon or eBay. And this blue pill comes with these pin headers, but I will solder a different kind of pin header here. So this is how the connections have to be done, and for that I have this DuPont connection, and we need a serial cable or a USB cable to connect to this serial adapter, because you can't program a blank blue pill over this USB port. You have to use either this kind of thing, serial adapter, or there's a different kind of adapter that you can use, but the instructions say use TTL, so we are going to use TTL. So I did put on 4 pins, and that is A9, A10, 5 volts and ground. A9 is the purple wire, A10 is the blue wire, 5 volts is the gray wire, which is a bit hard to see here. It's the wire to the left, and ground is the white wire to the right. And this goes to this serial adapter, and we have RX purple, TX blue, gray is VCC, and white is ground. Then we have a USB cable which goes into the serial adapter, not into the blue pill, because that won't work. So the final step to program this is to pull the top jumper and put it in the right position, which is to the right, like this. So this has to connect, the top one has to connect the middle pin and the right pin, and the bottom one has to connect the left pin and the middle pin. And that goes into the computer, and I will show you. Okay, so in order to flash the blue pill, you have to first go to the homepage of FlashFloppy OSD, project by Keir Fraser, who did also the Amiga test kit and I guess some other stuff. And you go to download FFOSD, and you click download the zip file, and it loads the zip file. You have to copy it to the desktop, which I already have done. I will do again. Okay, so now I have that on my desktop, and in here is the hex file which we need to flash the blue pill. Then you need to download the STM flash loader demonstrator, and that's pretty hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. So I put the link both for the firmware and the flash software in the description. You click get latest, then you have to put in your data, and you get some spam mail, but you can unsubscribe from that. There is that registration wall, and they will send you an email with a download link. Download that, install that, and go from there. And then you open demonstrator GUI. I have the blue pill and the serial adapter plugged in via USB into my PC. Now you have to push the reset button on the blue pill once, so that it actually knows that it has to go into flash mode. And you have to set the baud rate, or I did that, to 56,000. Leave the rest as is. And you should get target is readable. If you don't get this, try to push the reset button again. Just press next. Just press next. And then you go to download to device. And here you select the FFOSD 1.9. You have to switch the files down here because you don't see the hex file. go to the hex file, and I always click verify after download so that you have peace of mind that everything went well. Click next, and off we go. And that's it. Close it. And that is pretty much all there is to flashing this, if you know what you do or what to do. Took me a while to find out how easy it can be if you just know that this is the right software and not all the other tools out there. There's some cube software and stuff like that, so ignore that. Just use this. It's the easiest way to do this on Windows. If you want to know how to do this on a Mac or Linux, I have that in the description below. So our blue pill is programmed and we can remove the cable. One thing we have to do is to set this jumper, this first jumper, back to the original position, which is the left and the middle pin. Because if we do that, the program will be started automatically, and that is exactly what we want. So that is that. So I did choose a different camera angle to show you this a little closer. What I did is I soldered another one of these pins here, and this is the 3.3 volts line, because we are going to connect these with DuPont cables, this 3.3 line and this ground line, to the Gotek. And we are also going to connect the B15 and A8 line. So I will solder another one of these connectors, and then we have the 4 cables that go where now the display goes, right here. So this is where the display was. I already have connected some cables here. Okay, here's a connector for the DuPont cables. So we have the 4 connections for the DuPont cables which go to the Gotek, and now we have to solder in our 4 cables that come from the Amiga. That is taken care of the keyboard connection with it, which is the blue cable to B3 and the green cable to B4. And that are the video cables. The red cable goes to B15 and the yellow cable goes to A8. So in order to connect the blue pill to the Gotek, we have to use some DuPont cables. I will be using black, yellow, orange and red, and you can follow along. We have to put the black cable in the top left. We have to put the red cable in the bottom left position. This is the connector where the display was connected. So if you're facing the USB connection here, and we have the orange and the yellow, and the bottom right yellow, top right orange. So that is that. And now we have to connect this to our blue pill here. We have the 3.3 line on the right, and we will put the red wire there. We have the ground right next to it, so we will put this there. And we have orange on the right pin and yellow on the left pin. And that is already leaving. In order for this to work, we have to put some pull-up resistors for 4.7K, which I have here. I need 2 of these. So I will be using some heat shrink tubing, and I will put first I will connect one end of these resistors. Then I will put heat shrink tubing over them, so that just it's already gone apart. Let me just solder these together, that these stay together on one side, and that will be the side we use on the 3.3 volts line. We'll just put some electrical tape here, and that will cover the other components, I hope, and will prevent them from shorting. Just like that. Is it pretty? No, it's not, as always. Okay, everything is connected. I think we're good to test. Wow, that is quite the construction here. So let's start it up. Ain't seen nothing yet, to quote a famous song. That's not much. Yeah, since that doesn't work, we will try something else, which is updating the Gotek, the latest firmware. And for that I have copied the UPD file, which I downloaded from the FlashFloppy website, to this thumb drive. What you do is you just hold these two buttons while switching the device on. Let me just do that. That should do the update. And it's flashing, 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 flashing. And I guess we are good to go. So let me switch this off. You can use any thumbstick you already have in the machine, or in the Gotek rather. So now we go and do this again. And we get a workbench, but we don't get anything else. So I finally managed to find out what's wrong with my construction here. And it's the clip leads. You have to remove the clips, because when I wiggled this clip here, there was contact and I saw the text on the screen. So, you know how sometimes people are completely freaking idiots? Yeah, that's me sometimes. So I actually got this to work. Right now I have to use these keys because I'm an idiot. I soldered every cable to the motherboard, but I forgot that this is my spare parts Amiga, and that all the keys here are not working. But you need Control and Alt to actually navigate with left and right and up the discs. So I'm trying this and I'm wondering why there's no connection to the keyboard, and yeah, it's because I'm an idiot. So to present you with a more or less finished product, I will now transfer this to my black Amiga. So this works, yay! And it took me only a gazillion hours to figure out that I'm an idiot and that these clips don't work properly and that my keyboard isn't working, which I just now realized looking at the caps lock key, which doesn't light up, and I thought, hey, what was wrong with this keyboard? Yeah, so here's my black Amiga, and it still has this boot selector, which I will remove. Then I will have a slot for my new switch, and I will put, or I will try to put the disk, the Gotek, under the floppy drive. Maybe I have to cut this metal shielding here, or I will put it here. I'm not sure yet. I will show you if I get there. And I sorted all the things back in, removed the boot selector from here, and all the cabling is in. I also added one of these external or extenders for the USB port, and that has its own place here because there are already cutouts for that, which is great. And I will just connect this end to the Gotek, and then I can put my USB stick in there. Now I have to find a place to put all this stuff, because I think that spot's already gone, so I might end up doing the Gotek up here somewhere. So in the end I had to go the old plastic back route. This is not final. I need a longer cable here because the distance between this and this is just too short to put it in here where will be its final resting place. But for now that'll do. Yeah, that cable could have been a lot shorter on this side here, from here to the floppy, and that would make much more sense. But the distance between this point where the floppy is connected and the Gotek is just too short to put it here. Yeah, everything is routed now. I will just, I guess, hot glue this to this back here, because there's just a plastic cover over here. And then we are good to really test it, finally. So here's the final product. And as you can see, you cannot see that this is actually an Amiga with a Gotek, because it has its standard disk drive. And the only giveaway is this little thumb drive here. And that second switch, which was my bootloader switch, or boot selector switch rather. And now it's my Gotek /floppy switch. And I just booted from Gotek. So if I have the switch in this position, the disk drive is active and I can use a normal disk, which I put in here, switch it on. And it's clickety clicking away, put in the disk. Away we go. And I switch that off. And I switchity switch the switch. This is my kickstart switch, by the way. Switch this off. There's actually a disk in the drive, but it doesn't matter because who cares? Switch it on. As you can see, there's the on-screen display, and I can switch that off just by Control-Alt-Delete, and it says OSD off, and away it is. And switch it on, OSD on, and yeah, because the disk is not in there anymore, I can just do that. If I want to switch to the disk, I just go to the disk I want to insert. Let's say ZMcracken. And there we go. Now that McCracken is in. You can also, with Control-Alt-Return, fix the keys so that you don't have to press Control-Alt, and that will intercept the keyboard, and the keyboard is then pretty much useless for the Amiga, and you can just use the Gotek and command that. So if I press Control-Alt-Enter, it says keyboard held. And now I can just use the cursor keys or delete, stuff like that, without the Control-Alt. And if I press Control-Alt-Return again, keyboard is released and I can use my normal Amiga keyboard. There are quite a few other keyboard commands you can do. You can see them on the website. But that is pretty much all I wanted from this Amiga, to be able to have a Gotek completely hidden inside my black Amiga, except for the red light, that eye watching us. Yeah, so that is the end of this video. I hope you like it, and if you want to build one yourself, all the links, all the stuff is in the description below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.
Thank you for watching. Retro is the new black. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you like the video, please share. Every like, share, and comment helps a lot. Until next time, bye-bye.